Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode from Scale Up Thursday series. My name is Rashmita, and I'm the event planner for Microsoft Reactor India. I'm here today joined by our very own host. Hey, Vivek. Hey, Vinayak. And
Hello,
of course, our
Rashmita.
very
Good
Hi,
morning.
Rashmita.
hi. Good morning. Good morning. And with Vinayak and Vivek, we have our special guest speaker, Karan. But before we start our session today, I would request you all to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat section is open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. Our speaker will answer all your questions during the session, so feel free to drop all your question in the chat section. With this, thank you all and enjoy the session. Over to you, Vivek.
Thank you, Rashmita. Hi, all. Welcome to one more episode of Scale Up Thursday. I'm Vivek, Senior Cloud Advocate, and I have Vinayak with me. Vinayak, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vinayak Hegde, and I'm the CT in residence at Microsoft for Startups. As part of my work, actually help startups especially the CXOs of startup, scale their tech and product. And prior to that, I have worked with various startups. I use that experience to help them scale their tech and product. So that's about me. Vivek, we should get Karan on as well.
Yes, I'm just bringing in Karan. Hey, Karan, welcome to Scale Up Thursday show, and I let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Vivek. Hi, Vinayak. How are you?
Hi, Karan.
First of all, thank you for giving the opportunity to come on stage and share about our journey, our vision. I started my entrepreneurial journey almost 6 years back. Uh, my background is I am an engineer. Actually, I did chemical technology. Post that, I moved to data science, coding, etc. 2010 to 12, I did my MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. I worked in bunch of strategy and tech roles. Eventually, in 2017, we decided to start something of our own. That's where, since I worked in the media space for the past few years, I had a bit of idea as to what problem we should pick and what problem we should try and solve. So that's what we did in the last, few years. So more than happy to share my story regarding that.
Sure, Karan. I think that's a wonderful journey you have had. Because if I have to see the journey, right, I was just checking your LinkedIn. There's bunch of roles you have played, from business, from being a chemical engineer to business roles and uh, co-founding different. This is your second startup, which we are discussing. I believe the first startup is
Yes.
Logibricks. So that is something which we will definitely discuss. What you did there as well. You can just give us some kind of
Sure.
insight into that as well. Um, yeah, good, Karan.
We actually started two companies around the same time. So my wife, we studied together at IIM. She comes from a finance background, so we both decided to, first start one company, and then we had another idea. So we had a bunch of other co-founders who were interested in kind of working with us. So we started two companies together. I mean, maybe not the best thing to do as a first-time founder, but we didn't really know much back in the day. So we hustled a lot. I mean, to 2017 when we started both companies, at least 2 3 years we hustled a lot. We bootstrapped both companies, so we never raised capital. We made sure that we kind of be a profitable company from day one. So obviously that also involves doing a fair bit of services. We've done all of that, really hustled. So Logibricks and Reflection both are two totally different companies in terms of the problems they solve, the industries they cater to. So Logibricks is more on the retail side. So Logibricks, we started as an ERP product which we built, and then in a couple of years we realized it's very difficult to sell an ERP as a SaaS product in India to SMEs. So we decided to pivot it, and we tried solving some problems for e-commerce, mostly all of the D2C companies that you see these days. And in 2020 it really boomed. So Logibricks, we really kind of pivoted to make sure that we solve a problem where we can easily go SaaS. It's a natural SaaS offering that is there. Um, we also raised capital in Logibricks. We raised $1.5 million in 2021, uh, and we've really scaled the company now. Probably in the next 2-3 months, we'll even become profitable. So team size 70 people, some great engineers. Once we raised capital, we really scaled it. If you talk about Reflection, it started as a enterprise software company for focused on the media space, media and entertainment. That too more on the broadcasters, television broadcasters side. We, as I said, 2017, we had no idea about whether we should, what kind of a problem we should take and solve. So it was just kind of going with the flow, to be very honest. We solved a couple of very exciting problems like auto scheduling content on television, auto scheduling ads on television, for television networks. So the problems were pretty unique. They were very different. I mean, not many companies had even thought of something like that back in the day. But in 2020, again, we realized that we should kind of move a little bit away from television and linear, rather than just kind of staying with something which is already shrinking. So we created a more mainstream AI product, catering to video. So 2020 was that pivot. So it has been 3 years in that journey. It has been a crazy journey. I mean, I'd love to share what we've been through in the last 3 years. We've scaled the team to about 50 people. About 15 of them are data scientists. We have a very, very good team, in Touchwood. Uh, Again, based out of Pune. So, yeah, I mean, this has been the journey so far. And we've, even Reflection, so when we started building up on the idea, right? So after the first 6 months, we thought we should raise capital now. When we kind of knew that there is a product market fit, we raised about 600K. We raised very minimal amount, just what we needed. And we've just kind of sailed through, over the last 2-3 years with that money. So, yeah.
So to quickly to understand, what inspired you to, build Reflection.ai? So, what is the story behind this problem statement which you have picked up, right? So, what problem did you see in this space? Why you wanted to solve this problem? And we'll get to how you solve that problem later. But let's talk about your journey towards coming to the problem statement.
So, in 2017, when we started working with media companies, primarily television networks, I made a lot of friends. Pretty much, I mean, we worked with most of the large broadcasters in India, some of them in the US as well. Even in my previous roles, I was in a media analytics company, so I built a good network of professionals and people within the media community. When we were looking for a more mainstream product where we could utilize our capabilities that we built over the years in terms of AI ML, that is where, after speaking to so many people, we realized that uh, there is one area where we can really create a lot of moat. Having said that, to be very honest with you, at that time probably that problem did not even exist. So I'll just share a little bit about the problem. So what we thought we should, kind of enable media professionals, empower them with, was being able to search through video content. Um, so if, let's say, for example, there are 1,000 movie titles, right? Somebody wants to look at, kind of straight away get to scenes where, say, Salman Khan is angry and holding a gun. I mean, we help do that. So back in the day when we thought about this problem, to be very honest, the bigger concern was whether this can be done or not. Um, and obviously, I mean, whether the problem really existed or not. So we thought, let's give it a shot. Anyways, I think by that time lockdown had hit, so they had a lot of time. Not much was happening anyways. So we gave a good 3-4 months to this. We built a very quick and dry MVP. We took it to a few customers to check to see what their feedback was, and it was a great feedback. So people realize that something like this can really save a lot of time for them. Uh, to give you an example, say there is an editor who is creating a promo of a movie. The editor takes about 3 days to do it, to create one promo. out of which 1.5 to 2 days goes only in watching the content over and over and logging the content manually. So if it is an action promo of a movie, they would want to use scenes where there is an explosion, there is, there's some close combat, some gunshots. So all of this can be searched at a click of a button on Reflection. So when we went and when we met customers with, some kind of a basic solution, we realized that there is definitely a need. That is when we got serious about this problem, and we thought we should raise capital, we should scale it. Since then, we've invested 75,000 man days only in labeling data for our AI models. So the kind of classes that we are able to identify now, its own, and with a reasonable level of accuracy, is because of the fact that we invested a lot of time and money in collecting good quality data and training our models. So the last 2 3 years has been more around trying to solve this problem, and there have been again multiple pivots in this. We've at every point in time when we thought, no, we are not going in the right direction, we changed course. Probably every 6 months we've changed course, and that's how we are like today. We've done a hard launch now. We're launching our product in the US in April. So yeah, things have taken off.
Fantastic. I mean, um, it's an interesting journey. Like you thought about something which might not even exist as a problem for many, and when you went ahead and showed it to some of your potential customers, and they saw the problem. Yeah, we have this problem, and that's something, an interesting story, a very different startup story there. So Karan, let's move on to like, now you understood this is what you wanted to build, and you wanted to do a search in a video. Let's move on to how did you build it, and what is the strategy behind building it?
Karan, can you hear us?
Oh, I think, oh, we lost Karan, is it?
I think so. I think he's frozen. So I think
Yeah.
also I think they do video annotation and subtitling also,
Yep.
right? So it allows
Yep.
the workflow to do that as well. So we'll wait for like Karan to kind of get back. But I think what is also interesting is their use of they using their own models from what I talked to them, and also they are using machine translation to do the translation also into different things. So I think in addition to the search and video analytics, I think you also can do like video annotation. Multiple different editors can collaborate on the product as well.
Hmm.
So, so it's interesting because it's like kind of multifaceted, and I think it's not just the editor but also other people who can actually search. There are certain features even in other OTT platform that, like, if you click on the scene, it tells you like which actors are there in the scene, what's happening in the scene. um,
Oh,
uh,
is it?
and yeah, and you can kind of get to know, like, you can add trivia. So even not just in the video itself, but even in the player, as long as the player does support, you can also annotate certain specific events. So for example, let's say if a particular scene is actually boring, or like, let's say you want to fast forward songs, actually you can have those kind of automatic making of episodes also. So you can actually seek to maybe certain scenes also. So that kind of, as long as the player supports that, you can have that kind of annotation also in the uh, also in the
Hmm.
in video.
Yeah, I mean, like, one of the use cases he mentioned was the how he went to some of these people who generate those trailers, and uh, when he gives this kind of a tool to them, it's pretty easy for them to create, rather, you know watching for 3 days and doing some work for 3 days, just reduces the time to create or build something like this. So I think that is one of the biggest use case, I believe. Like, there's bunch of people who create trailers every day, all over the world, and this particular tool can solve that problem. That's a interesting use case, and there might be more, couple of more use cases. Maybe
Yeah,
once
also,
he's back,
yeah, so trailer
we'll
as
have a
well, but
discussion.
I think also in the editing, right? Like in the editing
Yeah,
process, I think there are multiple people involved, right? So where you want to maybe like cut the shot, and you have so much raw footage. So uh, eventually, I think the film, as people keep on saying, is also made at the editor's desk, because what the editor shows you actually does that, right? For example, even in photography for that matter, right? Like what you show in the picture, and also what you don't show in the picture, how do you place it, how do you sequence it, all of that matters. And most of the time, when you are kind of doing editing, actually goes in actually seeking ahead, and finding out that right scene, the place to cut, to sequence the videos, arrange the sequences in the right order, and then finally kind of merging all of that together. So that becomes real tricky. And I think what is also unique about, I think, reflection also, I think a lot of this is also happening in the backend, but also a lot of this is also happening in the browser, which is a um, which is very unique, because most of the software in this domain that I've seen, almost all of the software is desktop based. So like you run a executable. So I think that is also something that is kind of
interesting.
unique, right? Yeah.
True. I think, yeah, uh, having a SaaS based product is much better. And I have not seen much of the SaaS project in editing videos. It's you install it on your system and then you edit videos and other stuff. Very less in the market as well. So we'll wait for Karan to come. While we are waiting, if the audience have any questions related to Founders Hub as well, there is a video which we played, which was about the Founders Hub when we started this particular stream. So if you're interested to uh, join Founders Hub, if you're a startup and if you have an idea as well, you can apply, and the link to apply is coming at the bottom, and you can take a look at that. There is a reference email ID as well. You can use that reference email ID and get started with it. So Karan is
Yes.
back.
I
So
had some very
yep.
weird Windows issue, so my laptop shut down. It rebooted. I don't know.
Yeah. You were just talking about your product, right? How it can also be used for collaboration, and not just the
Can you also
trailers.
share your just before that, just can you share your slides as well? So yeah,
Yes, yes, yeah,
go ahead, Vinayak. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about a product. Like, since I'd seen the product, how it can be used for collaboration as well. And It's not just like the editor, right? Like, as I said, like you also said, like the editing also, once you have the raw footage, actually doing the editing is also a lot of tasks. And most of it involves like seeking to the right point, and then actually making the cut, and then sequencing it. And I think also what is unique about your product, Karan, I think what I was telling the audience also is, I think a lot of this is happening in the backend, but also in the browser, I believe, right? Because most of the software in this domain actually runs on the desktop. So that is also something I think maybe as we go on we'll talk about. So I'm just giving an overview, since I have kind of seen the evolution of product over a period of time. Yeah,
yes.
cool. So I think we can start off. So Karan, maybe you can take over, and we can go to the slide deck also now.
So, I mean, let me just connect that with the story as well. So, when we started, the idea was to build a piece of tech that can read a video and tag it using artificial intelligence, using computer vision, audio models. Uh, so we've come a long way from there. So this is where we started. We thought, we had a hunch that this is a problem which needs to be solved, which people were not even aware of back in the day. And then when we started meeting customers a year later, we got the feedback that there are a lot more use cases that can come out of this piece of tech. To name a couple of them, one is content moderation, which is basically ensuring that the content is compliant with the regulatory standards of the country where the content is going to be aired. Um, to give you an example, in India, whenever there is a smoking scene or a drinking scene, there needs to be a statutory warning on the screen, on the frames. Uh, some more examples could be, let's say in the UAE, you really cannot have alcohol scenes at all. So if you end up doing that, it is considered non-compliance, and your channel can even get banned for a few months. And
Mm.
and there could be a hefty monetary fine as well. Uh, Other religion scenes cannot be there in the Middle East. So there are many such use cases that we identified in terms of content compliance, which we started working on. Uh, and one more thing that you just raised was, when somebody has to create a highlight or a promo or a trailer, they have to do a lot of cutting, finding the right section, cutting them, joining them, and all of that. uh, it can be very well done using AI automatically. So the level of AI that we've built, we can actually cut 10 comedy scenes of 1 minute each from a movie. Okay, so we can identify comedy scenes, we can identify action scenes, romantic scenes, and so on. So using a lot of tags which are generated, which could be actors, emotions, the actions that people are performing, the sounds that are there at the back end, uh, the background sounds. So a lot of data, dialogues, etc., are used to generate highlights automatically. And along the way, we realized that we were actually providing dialogue search as one of the features, and we hit an opportunity to generate revenues by subtitling the entire content. So again, something that was largely done manually by a lot of companies. um, we thought we should probably take a shot at this, and we're actually making a lot of money just subtitling content for customers. And for I think everything that we spoke about, we've built our own proprietary models, we've collected our own data. So, except for obviously translating into other languages where we used Azure Cognitive API, everything else we've built in house.
So, do you also do like the voiceover? Like, do you also? I mean, I get that you're doing the translation to other language, but also do you kind of do the voiceover also, like the voice into other languages, or not that yet? Is that on the roadmap?
That's not even on the roadmap. It is a totally different and a very big problem to solve. It's a very hard problem to solve. We've definitely thought about it at some point, auto
Mm.
dubbing, but it's very tough to replicate emotions, pitch, tone, and automatically generate a voice which is fit for a character. So it's very difficult to do that. So I'm sure there'll be many companies that will come and they'll only solve this problem.
Yeah,
So
we have actually. I mean, we have talked to two other companies on this particular show, which are doing exactly this, which is why I asked this question also. And again, I know that the problem is also very tough, especially voice, to get the tone, the pitch, the pacing, the inflection, all of that really right. And so that's interesting. So yeah, please go on.
yeah, so we restricted ourselves to subtitles because subtitles is relatively easier to solve. To be honest, we never wanted to get into it, but it is a big revenue opportunity. So we thought of building a vertically integrated platform that auto generates subtitles and also gives the user an option to correct the mistakes manually on a very good interface. That's why we built that whole solution. And very easy for us to upsell to any existing customer. In fact, most of the customers right now are upsells from somebody who was using AI tagging or some other features that we provide. So it was an upsell to them, and they realized that there is this kind of a feature available. They started testing it out. They liked the accuracy. They thought that they could do this in less time as well. That's why they kind of started using it. So anyway, so coming to the first point of being able to search through content, uh, we built a piece of tech which we were very proud of, honestly. Like about 2 years back, when we went to the customers, we kind of got a reality check. We understood from customers that there's, to be honest, there nobody is kind of willing to pay a lot of money for this, number one. So we need to really bring the cost down. Number two, there are also issues around whether this is actually a need or not. So the end users of this kind of a service would be editors, and editors are never going to open a web application and search for certain things and then go back to their Adobe platform where they're editing and then use those inputs there. That's never going to happen. So we realized we understood from the market that there is a need to create plugins so that editors can use the AI search services directly in any editing platform like Premiere or Final Cut Pro or any other platform. Number two, there is also a need to create REST APIs which can be used in any other platform that any company is using. So typically, every media company uses something called as a media asset management platform. There are like hundreds of them. um, they would never want to switch platform. They were never want to switch from their existing platform to Reflection just to be able to use the service. They would want to use the service at a backend. They would definitely, there is value in this service if provided at the right price, but switching platforms is not an option, right? So we understood this and we worked on two areas. One, we were earlier tagging at a frame level at 25 fps. We were using heavy GPU machines, etc. So the costs were very high. In fact, the initial cost that we were offering to our customers was somewhere around $25 to $30 per hour of content, right? People were not, there was very limited market that we could kind of even have as a target market at that price point. So what we did was we had an eureka moment and we realized that if we can break the content down into shots, which are camera shots, and only infer a few frames for every camera shot, we could really bring the cost down. So we pivoted from something like this, where we are providing frame level results, to something like this, where we are providing shot level results. And our cost got down by 80%. So
That's
we could
interesting
then offer,
optimization.
yeah. We could then offer that service to a customer at a $5 to $6 price point, which is a very, very sweet spot. Even if you look at anybody like let's say Microsoft for their AI services, or AWS recognition, Google Vision, if you multiply the cost based on the number of frames, etc., it would come to $40 to $50 an hour. That is not the price point where somebody can operate, because this is not an essential need. This is helping the customer save time for their editors, right? There is a limited dollar value that you are saving for them. You can only charge them that much. So that is where I think this was pretty much a game changer for us. I want to even show a demo as to how we've cracked this. Number two, we started focusing heavily on plugins, since we realized that these editors are never going to open a web-based or platform or a mobile app, which is where we launched our Adobe plugins and DaVinci Resolve and Avid Media Composer. Final Cut is in the works. Also exposed REST APIs and started talking to these media asset management platforms. So we are currently in the process of partnering with these platforms, already in contact with more than 20 large platforms throughout the world. And to be, one of the good things for us was that these platforms, they've already identified the fact that tags need to be saved. So architecturally, they support the concept of saving tags, which are manual tags. And a few of them have even gone to the extent of integrating with an AWS recognition or any other AI platform out there, just to provide that as a service to some of their customers. So for us to come in at this point, it is very easy because the architecture is fully set. Customers are also aware that that some kind of a service of tagging can be used in the media asset management platform. So we come at a very, very sweet time, at a good price point where we think we can really disrupt the market. Having said that, it is not just the price point. To be very honest with you, larger platforms would never go to the depth of solving specific problems of any sector, right? To give you some examples, would somebody go to the length of tracking a smoking scene with a high level of accuracy, um, or would somebody want to kind of maybe uh, factor in for, let's say, somebody kicking or punching somebody in the face? And these are very specific media problems which no large platform would solve. On the compliance side, there are things we are doing which I can tell you that in years people would not really go to that level of depth. So intoxication, gore, sexually explicit content, violence, these are things that we've taken months to solve these problems. And we've also tested, let's say, for example, smoking, right? We've tested for cigarette as an object in one of the platforms, and the level of accuracy that we get there versus what we've been able to achieve, there is a huge difference. There have been POCs that our customers have conducted where they've compared us with these large platforms as well, just to find out the level of accuracy. So this level of depth, for somebody to get to this level, I mean, they would need specific focus on the industry. So there will be a number of other startups that will come that will try and solve these problems, but to expect a larger company to come and solve this is not going to happen. Then talking about highlights, again, I mean, to be very honest, we never approached any customer and told them that, we are going to automate the entire process of highlight creation. We know that something like this is, I mean, although it might sound disrupting, but it will also disrupt jobs, right? It will kind of threaten people. So we never thought of building something that could replace the process of creating a promo, or having that human uh, hunch of what kind of shots to be taken in a highlight or in a promo. But we are pitching to customers that we can augment their editors. We can help them. We can save their time. Whatever they used to do in 3 days, they can now do it in 1 day, and so on.
So basically, you will generate the trailer, but I mean, leave agency in the hand of the editor to see whether whatever the AI selected makes sense or not, right? Because the editor would know, like let's say if it's action movie, you want to have all of the action scenes, maybe the car blowing up in there, or like the hero actually walking out of fire. I mean, those kind of scenes are very sought after in trailer. So maybe you kind of highlight those. But I think because the storyline also is known by the editor, I think there is human input in terms of the trailer should be stitched together as well. I'm guessing. So
Yes,
so it's like
absolutely.
so that's why it's like an augmentation kind of solution. Yeah.
Yes, it is an augmentation kind of a solution, and you're right that human touch is very, very necessary. So, in fact, what we give as an output is not even a cut content. We give something called as an EDL. EDL is basically the list of time codes that the AI has chosen for this kind of a highlight, and the EDL can directly be imported in Adobe or any other platform, and they can actually get to see that in the timeline, in the Premiere
Okay.
timeline or any other timeline. So augmentation is something that we were focusing on. But having said that, there are a few other things here which we can solve very well using AI. One of the things is converting a highlight to a reel. So when you convert a highlight to a reel, essentially what you're doing is the 16:9 aspect ratio needs to be converted to 9:16. So you need to identify who is the main character, where exactly is that character in the frame, because he may not always be at the center. Sometimes there may be two people talking, so left and right. So being able to identify who is the person who's talking, and tracking that person, like, from frame to frame, and then automatically being able to cut that into a reel. So that is something that we've totally automated. In fact, even providing the service to auto publish to platforms like YouTube and all, through OAuth, right? So yeah, few things I think AI can solve really, really well, but few things are kind of more of an augmentation where somebody can save time and get more inputs and do a much better job in terms of creativity. Right? So this
So very
particular problem, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no nothing. I have a very different question. Like, uh, if I am building reels, so I can I use this tool? Uh, just go ahead and use this tool. Do add my raw recording there, and can this tool give me a proper uh, final reel, and then I can go and upload it on my Instagram. I mean, as a B2C, I'm talking about, as a consumer, as a simple guy who is building reels.
Yeah, so we've always thought about who we should go after, and one of the things that we really want to stick to is businesses. We don't want to, at least in the next 2-3 years, we don't want to go to the level of reaching out to consumers. However, if somebody is an influencer and is ready to pay and use the service, they can definitely use it. Currently, obviously, it is in closed beta. We are still testing it, but in 3-4 months when it is available, anybody can register on Reflection and start using this as a paid service. Uh, but for
Got
us
it.
to, tweak our GTM to reach out to consumers, that is a totally different ball game. In just businesses, the problem itself is so huge that that itself should take care of us and our time and so on.
Got it. So
Cool, Karan.
there is one question actually. I don't know whether you're going to touch about this later or now, but it is more on the GAN models you are using. I think you will be talking about that later in the
Yeah,
architecture.
I'll talk about that later because I have
Yeah,
few slides on the tech side as well.
got it.
Yeah, so
So
that
I
was
think we
me.
can. Yeah,
Yeah, so I think in the interest of time, I was thinking if we can just move on and talk about the tech. Unless I think Vivek, there are any questions that you want to take as
no,
well.
nothing,
Yeah,
nothing. I think we can go.
yeah,
Okay, yeah. Let me kind of, maybe before I move on, jump onto the tech, let me give a small demo of the platform.
sure.
So this is the platform uh,
Can you
where,
zoom in? Can you zoom in a little bit?
is, one second, is it, I don't know whether zooming would be the
Maybe
right thing to do.
just try Control plus plus
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
but
or Command plus plus.
better.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
It's okay. So
that
this
is
is better.
good.
This is
Yeah,
better.
this
Yeah.
Zooming reminds me that there was one feature when we built this user interface of video player. We wanted to factor in for for different zoom levels, right? And it took us almost 3-4 months to crack this. And at any zoom level, it should be optimized.
that is interesting. And also, I think maybe I think as we go on, I think you should also talk about that. What are the challenges building this to the browser, because the browser itself is not. It was the browser was initially built for rendering HTML and CSS. Actually, just HTML, and then the CSS came along, and then the browser has become more and more of a app platform. And yeah, especially video is like very very intensive to do and tough to do. I know that at least a couple of companies trying that, but I know that it's not very easy. It comes with its own set of limitations. So yeah, as you go on, maybe talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. So at some point we thought of also providing very basic editing services on the browser, but that was totally a wrong decision. So we realized that it is much better to partner with other editing platforms, because everybody talks on certain common points like EDL, the one I was talking about. So working with these editing platforms is much better than creating your own. But when any entrepreneur starts working on a problem, I think there is this tendency to solve a lot of things around the problem, which
Mm.
is not always right. Like if I give you an example of what we've done here, right? Uh, we've There was actually no reason to build a fancy platform, where people can do a lot more things like changing statuses or giving comments or adding more users, etc. To be very honest, just building a simple platform which just gave an opportunity for somebody to upload their content, or maybe not even doing that, just leaving everything to the plugin. If we are targeting editors or any other media professionals who use other platforms, just the integration probably could have solved the problem. But when we started working on this, we thought, let's build a very fancy platform and provide more. That's where the idea of building an editor also came into our thought process. But eventually we thought, no, that's not the right way to go about it. So if you talk about certain capabilities to be provided on web, there it's not much, to be honest. We've used
Mm.
React as a UI technology for this. That too, we started paying the tech debt, only after about 1.5 years of
Mm.
starting work on this as a problem. Um, so this was, I think, early 2022 that we started building this on React, the UI. Uh,
Mm.
when we started working on the tech 3 years back, we started with a monolith, service oriented architecture, but monolith. There was no vision on how this has to scale, how many customers we would have, how many videos there would be on the platform, and so on. So we started from that approach to starting doing microservices architecture. So we currently have 50 microservices that power this whole thing,
Interesting.
using a lot more suited databases. So we started with Postgre only, but now we have Postgre, we have Cassandra, we have Elasticsearch, we have Redis for caching. So we've started using a lot more suited components for the
Hmm.
platform for different kinds of problem. At the back end, we started with .NET Core. We
Hmm.
are now on, for certain microservices which are core to the platform, we use .NET 6 or .NET 7 in some cases. For certain others, like say sending notifications, WebSockets, we use Node.js. And for a lot of AI that we've built and deployed, we've used Python. So whichever is the right choice of tech, we've kind of used that. Let me also show you,
Yeah, so that's interesting. So I want to kind of call out that point, right? So I mean, I do tend to talk to a lot of startups, and I think generally, and there's a video also that I put on this on Founders University. So generally, ask them to use dynamical type language, maybe like JavaScript, Python, Ruby, and then also use like as they become more backend heavy, and services move to the cloud, and they want correctness. I think having like a strongly typed language really helps, right? So you kind of mentioned .NET and C Sharp probably is what you're using there. So I think that kind of becomes really good. And because you have microservices, I think you can version once you have monolith and break it into microservices. I think once you version each of the monolith, each of the microservices can then be like separately can have a different language, which is best for that, right? So for example, you said that if there's any kind of machine learning AI and you have libraries, and maybe use Python. But like if you're doing notifications, right? I think maybe use like something like Node.js. So you can actually, in some sense, choose the best language or the framework for that particular microservice. And basically, everybody, since they're talking through either something like RPC or through REST, can kind of communicate with each other, right? So you kind of then, and that I think, Karan, I think that might also be interesting, because I think that will have an impact on your team also, because as your team grows, you also kind of start specializing in a particular stack. So you will have somebody who's good at Node.js, others who are good at Python, and so on. Right? So team also starts specializing in that particular way. So I think that evolution is very interesting to see, because we often talk about it, but you yourself have talked about it, and I just wanted to kind of highlight that part, to starters, because that evolution of the stack and the team and the services and the architecture itself actually is like joint at the hip and goes hand in hand as the feature set kind of evolves.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about a monolith, you don't really need a big team, right? We had a team of about 10, 12 engineers when we first started working on this. Now we have close to 30 engineers, 15 data scientists, right? So I mean, when you think of microservices, when you think of solving a much bigger problem with a larger scope, I mean, choice of technology is one thing that, you need to kind of do this really well. So you obviously need to hire people who are good at Python, who are good at Node, Java, .NET, whatever the case may be. Um,
Mm,
if you consider us, when it came to UI, I mean, we kind of thought that we should build the skills in house and make everybody full stack. So,
mm,
um, so everyone who's worked on the UI is somebody who is already doing backend. So we kind of scaled that way in terms of UI. But if you look at other technologies, in fact, there are certain specialists in Python for sure. But if you look at Node, probably it's the same team that did .NET, that learned core Node and then implemented it. So, but yeah, understanding the right choice of tech for the kind of problem was very important. So if you look at this, right? So this is the main transactional part which we've created in .NET Core, which includes the collaboration part of giving comments, the entire
mm,
um, all the transactional data related to it, the users, etc. There are certain activities that we do once a video is uploaded, like creating thumbnails, creating proxies, the low resolution proxy videos, conversion from one format to another format, uh, metadata of the video. We also help with PDF and image processing. So all of this as well. So all of this is best done on Python. So
mm,
that's what we did. And on the AI side, if you look at vision and audio, obviously Python is the best choice of tech to write any computer vision or any audio model. Uh, I mean, debatable, but mostly yes, easy to find as well. So
mm,
frame extraction, short segregation, face detection, emotion detection, objects, places, many more, right? Are all microservices uh, which are built on Python. on the vision side, similarly on the audio side as well, transcription, subtitling, and so on and so forth. Uh, how creating some microservices helped us is that whenever somebody, let's say somebody is uploading 100 videos, we are processing all 100 videos at the same time.
Hmm.
So we create
You
multiple
can spin
pods.
up and yeah, so you can spin up and spin down those microservices. Also,
Yes.
another question I had, since I mean, again, maybe this is something that you're thinking about is what I've realized in my own journey is, having solved not this specific problem, but similar kind of machine learning AI problem is maybe initially you build it in Python, and but I think for the sake of efficiency, maybe what you realize is maybe Python is not that fast because again it's uh, anything that is CPU intensive, you want to probably have one strongly typed and also be more efficient. So do you kind of see, or are you at that point where you feel that maybe some of these services which are in Python can be rewritten in maybe some other statically typed language, or do you feel that maybe there's still some time to go that, because that point invariably will come as you have more and more videos, more and more customers, because
Yeah, I mean,
the cost of running the microservices also will start kind of showing up uh, on the cost side. Yeah.
yeah, I think you are perfectly right that, at the right time we have to take these decisions. Um, I mean, like when we started, most of the stuff that we were using was not even managed service. We kind of built small VMs, started working on it, but the cost of managing it was much higher than actually paying for the managed service. So at some point we realized that we should use a lot of managed services. In fact, you know what, when we started, we built our own identity server as well to store user passwords, etc. But then we thought, I mean, there is absolutely no need to do this heavy lifting. Rather, let's just use Azure ADB to see many
Yeah,
other
yeah,
things that are available out there. Yeah,
yeah, it doesn't add anything to your product. I think you can. I think your kind of innovation and what you can do the most is probably the
absolutely.
AI vision audio. That is the core, right? And anything in some sense peripheral, you can just probably use whatever is in some sense best of class. And I think as an engineer, also, I think personally also I've struggled with it, right? Because you want to we are builders, we want to build, but again, like choosing not what to build and what to focus on, especially a startup with a very constrained and small team, actually is very, very important. So yeah, I wanted to kind of highlight also. I think that's very interesting decision and journey also in terms of the stack evolution.
What
Absolutely.
what is your cluster in production looks like? Like Azure Kubernetes cluster you have. How many worker nodes usually you have for running such a intensive
I
product?
wouldn't have those specific numbers, but I would be happy to kind of maybe send a note after this session on the specific numbers of number of nodes, etc. But
Got it.
as just to give you a higher level this thing idea of this, we have about 50 microservices. Uh, if I just talk about the process of say this entire process of AI tagging, right? So there is this. Uh, I don't think I have that handy, but I'll just explain. So as soon as somebody um, triggers the need to tag a content, let me just show you an example. So this is a video that somebody uploads a video and opens it. There is an option of what all needs to be tagged, right?
Mm-hmm.
Categorized into different categories. Once I select this and I hit run, it will start for every single uh, uh, model which we've kind of decided to have as a separate microservice. It will create a pod, right? It will
Mhm,
run this specific video on that pod. So if there are 100 videos that are requested at the same time, it will create 100 pods for each of
mhm,
these features that we are trying to do, and it happens in a sequential manner. So for example, the first thing that we do is we do frame extraction. So we extract at 25 frames per second. We store the frames in blob storage. Number two, we do short segregation because now we've started doing inferencing at a short level. Then if somebody has requested, let's say, emotion, right? So the first thing that happens is detecting faces, right? This happens first. When all the faces are detected, all those faces go through emotion model.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it happens in a sequential manner, and certain models would be prerequisites to other models. So that's how we've kind of modeled it. And there is a task manager that handles this entire approach. Similarly, with subtitles as well, what is the language? and how many other languages do you need subtitles in. So all of this can be selected.
Got it. So even if I select the emotions model, the face detection model and emotion model together, it runs at two pods or just one pod?
No, it runs two pods. Face detection is a, so we used to do earlier, we used to do everything on the same VM, which was a GPU VM. But then now we thought, no, we'll run everything on CPU because we need to auto scale this like anything. So so face detection is another pod, and
Okay.
then face detection is one, face recognition is one, facial attributes is one, and emotion is one. To
Got
run
it.
facial
Interesting.
attributes, emotion, and face recognition, you need to have face detection as a prerequisite.
Hmm.
Interesting. So I
So
think also I think one end of the spectrum is you running everything on a VM. But I think running everything as a Kubernetes pod also I feel is a overkill. I think there's a happy middle. Again, it's not easy because you have to figure out how does your
absolutely.
service composition look, how do you sequence, all of that kind of knowledge is there. But I think at some point you will probably have to consolidate because the amount of time you're spending in actually storing and retrieving, I think the handoff can be done by composing different services kind of together in a better way, right? Currently,
Yes.
if you're scaling each of them individually for 100 videos, I think there is a lot of time in handoff between different services. So I think again,
Yes.
like there is it's not an easy problem to solve because you need, like as you said, like the sequencing is important, but also I think a little bit more thought may be interesting, would be interesting in terms of how do you compose and use those services together. For example, can you kind of dynamically create pipelines where you can pipe the output of one maybe service into another seamlessly by using some kind of orchestration would be interesting rather than going back and storing to as you said, like doing frame extraction to blob storage. Again, that might be in some sense be an unnecessary step. Again, something to think about. But yeah, interesting nevertheless. So again, I think what I'm liking about this conversation is like how you have evolved, and these decisions are again not easy because it depends on so many different factors as engineering, right? Number of videos, amount of management, how do you write code, what are the people's expertise, how do you compose. I think these are like not easy problems. I think they evolve over a period of time, and what is I think most interesting for a lot of people on this is that how it has evolved over a period of time.
Absolutely. Yeah, but right, that at different points in time, I think we need to start thinking how to optimize further. And there is also a cost benefit analysis that we need to keep doing at every point.
Absolutely.
If we are incurring more costs in running VMs, maybe think of managed services and the other way around as well. So yeah, I mean, it's an evolving story for sure.
So Karan, let's see one demo now.
Yeah. So this video we've already pre-tagged it, and these are the tags that have got generated. Right, there are emotions, there are actors, there are some unknown faces, there are these objects. Um, Also on the smoking, drinking, compliance side, there are a few other things. If I want to look for, say, this actor, I hit search. Now it is fetching from the database and it will give it. It took about 2-3 seconds. So it is a data intensive process. Plus, we've also remodeled after this. Initially, we were storing these tags in Cassandra, but then we realized that that is not the best choice of tech. So we moved it to Elasticsearch. And I'll show you the results with Elasticsearch as well. But these are the kind of results that we get. For at the frame level, whichever frame you select, it will give you the all the results that are there in that frame. Right.
Interesting.
And if you see how we've bettered this, we'll show you an example, a recently uploaded video that we tagged at a short level. So we've launched this again in beta because we're still testing it, but the same thing will be at a short level. So this actor Freddie Highmore, if I search, I just clicked and I got it. Right.
Hmm.
So it's extremely fast, and now there is less data as well. There is a better choice of data warehouse than Cassandra for this kind of a thing. And this is how, so the results are, rather than every frame, the results are in and out time. So this shot was from here to here, so this is the in and out time of this match. And this can be extracted as an EDL, can be uploaded to Premiere directly. So all of these results will show on the Premiere timeline that are shown here, right?
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean, typically this is the main switch that has happened for us in terms of performance, in terms of architecture, in terms of cost. If you look at another thing, which I was talking about, which is the subtitling angle, right? So once the subtitles are created, I mean, you can never, using AI, you can never generate 100% accurate subtitles. So we've created this editor where the subtitles can be edited manually. They can be
Interesting.
corrected manually.
Wow, wow.
Somebody can run it, can easily see the
Okay, cool.
Hmm.
No, this is cool because like it is like in the place that you are actually working. So yeah, so maybe the tagging of the time is right, but the because subtitle that also matters, right? Tagging of the time. So if you get that right, maybe the diction or detection is wrong. So then correct it in place and then just save it. So yeah, this is brilliant actually because you're
Yeah,
being
this was a really big problem getting the time right, and we've done this. Obviously, this is with 100% accuracy, but you can still change it. You can move it here and there. There are other subtitle settings like how many lines you want, maximum characters per line, minimum gap between subtitles. So there are a lot more guidelines to creating subtitles than meets the eye. So we've tried to build all of this in along with the AI services that we give in terms of creating the subtitle itself. But if somebody doesn't want to use AI, they want to do it manually, even then they can do a much better job. So they can probably, if they have some subtitles, they can upload them here
Hmm.
using this. And then once they upload, they can straight away start seeing the subtitles. They can start editing the subtitles here. So if I want to add some, type something here, or split subtitles, or join two subtitles, um,
so
maybe
once
change the
you
font. Yeah.
Yeah, so once you have the subtitles, do you kind of have them as a separate files, like SRT files, for example, are
Yes.
generated sometimes, or do
So
you do
we,
you kind of render the video with the subtitles? Do you have that option as well? Because sometimes I've seen that the videos have subtitles kind of burnt into the video itself.
yeah,
So do you
we've
do
so
that?
this was again one major problem that customers faced. They had to always have the subtitles file separate and the video separate. So
Hmm.
they wanted to build a feature where the subtitles can be burnt in, which we've given as a feature. And
Okay.
subtitles can also be exported directly as an SRT or VTT or multiple, about 10, 12 different formats. But when we save it, it is saved in a database format, in an SQL database format, and from there we, based on the guidelines that people choose, etc. Based on this, we actually create the subtitles file. We store it as a text, and then it can be downloaded in
Then you
any
can
format.
burn into the video. Yeah, either it can be burnt into the video or it can be downloaded separately with
Yes,
those kind of
yes,
settings.
yes,
So this is where you're using Azure Cognitive Services, is it, to convert it into
yes,
text,
yes.
audio to text,
No,
and
we do the transcription with so at some point we were using Azure models, but when we started giving dialogue search as a feature,
hmm.
which was a very basic feature, we had to build a transcription model ourselves, even with a less level of accuracy, but we had to build it ourselves. But then we started working on it. When we started working on it, we collected a lot of training data to make it better. So in fact, in terms of Indian languages, we are, for some of the languages, we are even better than an Azure or AWS or some other platforms. But in terms of obviously English and French and German and Spanish and all, obviously we can only do limited. But yeah, I mean, this was a decision that we took to build our own transcription model. But translation, obviously, we do using Azure.
Got it.
So yeah, I mean, this is how it has. I mean, if I show you the earlier screens of this platform, I mean, you will not believe the level of evolution that we've had here. Even in terms of basic UI services of giving comments, being able to annotate on the frame.
So this is all exported into different, or is it like, or this is like only for like use for communication internally?
No, this is for internal communication. This is the collaboration feature between
Okay.
teams of the same company, or it could also be client and vendor. So
Hmm.
another example is an ad agency creating an ad and getting feedback from the advertiser is one of the
Hmm.
things that this is used for. So this problem is a relatively older problem that many companies have come into this and solved this problem. But we thought that if we are building a platform Let us give one more simple feature for somebody to kind of be sticky with us. And this is actually working very well. To be honest, we have a lot of customers that actually got in through collaboration, and now they've
Mm,
started using AI services as well.
mm, mm, mm.
Got it. So there are couple of questions.
Yes.
Let me first bring up. Um, yeah, there is from one from Ashwin. I think you did answer it, but we can specifically answer it to him. Like how many members of the team, like 50 microservices you have. You have answered it. Why? But how many team members you have in
So,
like 30 developers you
yes,
mentioned?
yes. Full stack developers, we have close to 30, and
Hmm.
they are able to manage it very well. I'll show you how. It's a very, very difficult thing to get right because there are so many people, there are so many tasks. So we use Azure DevOps actually for all of our development, even CI/CD pipelines, tracking the status of development and so on. Who has done what is pending, total pending items, total close today, week, etc. So everything is tracked on a daily basis. Uh, we make targets at the start of the week as to what we want to do by end of the week, and we make sure that we get it done. And we've also built CI/CD pipelines where we've integrated something like a Sonar Cloud to auto check the quality of code, and obviously going through the dev, QA, staging, and prod kind of model of CI/CD. So this is something that we've done. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult to handle 50 microservices, so many developments, so many changes, and all of this is actually on the UI side. If you look at it, it is all one page, so it's not anything that there are multiple pages like any other platform. It's one single page where we've kind of handled everything. So
Got it.
yeah.
Got it. So there is one more question from Jagdish. What does EDL stand for? I think you spoke about some EDLs in middle. I'm not.
So
I'm not also
EDL
not sure.
is it's a standard format for editing platforms.
Okay.
I don't remember the full form of EDL, but it is basically in terms of data, it consists of time codes. So what I showed you, right, the search. So what you can export as an output is the time codes, which is this start to end, this start to end, this start to end, this start to end, and so on. It gets extracted into a file, which is, I believe, see this EDL, search result EDL, and this can be directly uploaded to Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro or any other platform. They understand EDL well. This is much better understood than an XML or a JSON or a CSV. It's a very
Yeah, so
standard,
yeah, so
yeah,
EDL is edit decision list.
edit decision
So
list.
yeah,
Yeah,
and they basically, as you said, like it contains basically it's an annotation with the timeline, so that it's ordered thing. So similarly, I think subtitles also have some similar information because time in the video, I think time is the main indicator of seeking. So basically, it does an overlay and allows you to seek to that point. So EDL or edit decision list is basically an annotation, mostly in terms of time, of where to start, where to stop, and maybe any kind of comments or stuff on layered on top of those timelines as well.
true.
Great. So, uh,
I think somebody
audience.
asked a question on GAN, right? So,
Yeah. Again.
Yeah.
Yes.
so just to kind of make it clear, we are not into any kind of generative AI. That was never the objective. The objective was to solve a straightforward problem of being able to identify something in a content than creating anything. So we're totally not into it. And there are a lot of startups that are focused on generative models where you can generate images, etc. Not us.
Yeah, so I think because we have actually done the last show with another startup called Professor Jim. I think for those who are listening in, you can go and check the archives, and I think they actually work on the other side of a video where actually while Karan and his team is actually working on existing videos and enhancing them and editing them. I think the other part is actually generating videos and being able to give voice and other things. So that is a very hard problem, not easy to solve. So Professor Jim is one of the startups we have featured here. I mean, you can go and take a look at the archives and see if you are interested in that part as well.
I'll just share the video. Awesome. Yeah. Cool. I mean, audience
Maybe
viewers watching, maybe
yeah,
they
if you have
can
any
keep.
questions, please let us know. And I think, Karan, maybe I think since we're done with the demo, maybe we can move back to the architecture slide as well a little bit. So we'll talk a little bit more.
Yes.
We're just a little bit over time, but I just wanted to focus also on the fact, like, talk about specialization, obviously in teams in terms of microservices, but also I think a little bit on maybe like the data, how you're storing data, and in terms of the observability, if you can talk about that part as well. Because we talked about the other parts, but maybe I think about this part might be interesting as well.
Sure.
So
So,
yeah.
yeah. So whenever somebody uploads content, it goes into blob storage. Um, Also, for running AI models, we extract frames which are also stored in blob. Uh, any model that needs frames to do inferencing directly uses it from blob storage. So earlier, what we used to do was in the machine we used to download all the frames and then we used to do the processing. We've totally changed that, and now we are directly using it from blob. In terms of databases, we started only with Postgre first, but then we realized that there are certain types of data which need another type of database. So to give you an example, for a 2-hour movie, we are generating 1 million tags using AI. So we wanted to look at a better choice of database than a Postgre in terms of performance, in terms of speed, etc. So we initially started with Cassandra. So it was a Cassandra cluster with multiple nodes, 3 nodes I think we were using. It was giving a decent level of performance, but eventually we thought of moving this to Elasticsearch, and we totally converted it into objects and smaller objects, which are stored at a short level. So that is why you could see a much higher level of performance, because data is now stored in Elasticsearch as very small level objects. Um, we use Redis for certain caching of data, storing temporary data and all of that. Nothing too serious. Comments we still store in Cassandra. We've not moved the comments here because we are getting a very good level of performance as far as comments are concerned, because typically in one content you would not have more than 50 to 100 comments, so very easily manageable in Cassandra. And the way we do this is, typically, I mean, the best way to do this is whenever somebody gives a comment, I mean, we don't do a server call right away. I mean, we first, when somebody gives a comment, we initially immediately change the state of the user interface. So for the user, it is done. And then at the backend, we start pushing this. We've even exposed Azure functions, and we hit the Azure function and directly it goes into a queue. So we use RabbitMQ, and then it starts, getting inserted into the database, by the queue. So this is how we've kind of optimized this. Even when somebody tries to like a comment or reply on it, all of this is like really fast for the user. But on the back end, it goes through RabbitMQ and it kind of happens in a sequential manner. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty much it. There are, I mean, the logs of pods that have been created. The entire log of it is done in Prometheus, and we've also connected it with Slack directly. So on Slack, we keep getting notifications if anything goes wrong in terms of CPU usage, in terms of any pod that is getting created, we kind of get alerted instantly. We use obviously Grafana for Prometheus and Kibana for Elasticsearch. Um, yeah, I think on the database side, this is pretty much it. For React, we are using static web app. So we are, I mean, since we expect to have customers throughout the globe, we thought, I mean, especially US, Europe, it was important to make sure that we use a scalable service. So static web app service is being used for that. We are even planning to have multiple services exposed in different regions. So if somebody is accessing from the US, it will hit a service that is exposed close to the US than the service that is exposed in central India. So that process is ongoing right now. But if I try to use this platform in the US, in most of the countries that we've kind of been to and that we are targeting, And it still works well even when everything is in central India. So that's the power of cloud is kind of what I kind of got to know. And 1 year back, when we were kind of not using services to this level, I mean, we could really see that in different regions, some regions it is very slow, some regions it is better. So with this kind of an architecture, it gives a consistent level of performance throughout. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting.
Yep. So there is
Uh,
one question from the audience. I just want to bring that up. So, I mean, do you offer any APIs for in your product where somebody else can consume it in a different way?
Yes, we offer APIs, and we are. Sorry. So we've exposed APIs, but we've not totally opened it up to anyone and everyone. I mean, right now we are kind of generating the API keys at the back end for any partner who wants to integrate with us. But eventually we will kind of even make this totally public, where anybody can go and they can do an integration, they can generate API keys, etc. on their account. But yeah, I mean, this is how somebody can request for an annotation, what all they want to do, they can specify, and this is the response object that we give. And I
So
mean, to be
some
honest, we've not really even standardized the pricing of the API. So whoever we are integrating it with, we kind of decide the pricing based on the engagement, the volumes, and so on. Yeah,
got
sorry.
it. Got it. So there is a question on. There's a lot of questions on the model which you use. So there is one question on like fusion strategy and ONNX converted. So can you just give a
are you
Yeah, I
using
will.
bit of
OLX currently?
No, we are not.
Okay.
We are not. But I'll show you something. I mean, very very briefly to give an idea of what are the model architectures that we have. I mean, this has evolved over time. So based
Mhm.
on the accuracy, performance, we've evolved it. We've tried to use some standard services as well wherever possible. Just one second. Let me open it.
Yeah, while you're opening it, I think people who don't know about ONNX, I think ONNX or Open Neural Network Exchange actually is kind of an interchange format. Think of it as interchange kind of format where you can actually train the model on maybe say PyTorch, but maybe run it on maybe TensorFlow or vice versa, right? So once you export it in in or train it in one kind of framework, you can use the model that is generated in another framework. So you can use one kind of framework for building the model and another for inferencing. So yeah, so it actually, I mean, maybe not a great analogy, but I think it maybe think of it as like a sort of a JVM or JDK kind of interplay for AI models.
yeah.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, I would probably we would even write a blog on something like this, and for every model, what are the tools that we've used? How, in fact, how have we evolved it over time? There's a story to it. Would want to actually even write an article on Medium to kind of denote all of this. But yes, this is how it is. So for frame extraction, we use FFmpeg. For face detection, uh, we use this. We also do face tracking. Use deep sort for that. Face tracking, as I said, is important for bunch of things. In fact, beyond a point, if you want to increase accuracy of a model, uh, there is, so we use face tracking to rule out all the one-off errors that are made in a shot. So this is why we use it. For face recognition, we use face recognition. We use SVM algorithm to recognize faces. For emotion, we use ResNet 18, ResNet 50 for face attributes. Object, we've now moved to YOLO V7. Um, for every object, for every class of object, right? So there are about in these many, I think what 570 objects that we are doing it into multiple categories.
Hmm.
For
Interesting.
every class, there are about 2,000 images that we've collected. So we have a very standardized process to do that. We have about 50 data labeling interns at any point that keep collecting data for newer classes.
Interesting.
Again, object tracking also is done. Action recognition is something like somebody's kicking someone or punching someone, somebody's loading a gun or walking or running. So all of this is, rather than inferencing it on a still frame, it is better done on a set of frames. So we use about 16 frames together, and we run the action recognition model, which is on 3D ResNet. Then
Understand.
there are some scene level things: shot detection, scene detection, place
So what
detection.
what is what is the impact, like, by grouping frames together? It is faster. Is it faster or is it more accurate?
No, you can't
Like,
do you can't do something on a still frame. Like if you want to see if somebody is kicking someone or punching someone, you have to do it on a set of frames. It can't be a still photo that tells you that this person is kicking him or he's falling down or whatever.
okay,
So action model for us is very, very important actually.
okay,
So I'll show you what we are doing in terms of what we are able to infer. See this, like in close combat, throwing objects as intention to hurt, breaking of. So these are all action models.
interesting, interesting. No, it's fascinating because I think you'll be tracking objects, you'll be looking at how it kind of
Yes,
moves through the frame as well, which is very
yes,
different from like saying that whether there is a bag or is there a certain character in a frame. Yeah, again, very interesting, right? Because you need to understand what is the motion in terms of the AI
yes.
as well to be able to get this information.
True.
Yep. So while we are on this, there is a question from Divya actually. So the question is, can we do auto labeling using this tool? Say I have 1,000 images and I want to multi-label it and save the annotation, basically to build a training model, train different models using that. Uh, that's the question.
So we haven't really gone to the level where we give our users or our customers an option to automatically add a class. We've done it partially in terms of any faces that are not recognized by reflection. We show it we show all the clustered faces in unknown face section, and then there is a flow. There's a workflow where somebody can give the person a name, uh, and we for any video that has been uploaded on that account, we check if that face is present and we change the name. So partially we do that, but we've not really gone to that level where we give somebody an option to do it. But in future, it will definitely happen. But as I said, I mean, what we are doing right now is very specific to the media problem. So if somebody is actually trying to solve some problem in the media and entertainment space, I think we would be the best choice, probably one of the best to use. But if somebody wants to do anything which is generic, I think an Azure or an AWS is a better choice of API to kind of use. And they also provide these tools where training, etc., can happen very easily. But we
Yep.
currently, our annotation is done manually. So with regards to faces, we have some level of automation, but with regards to objects and other things, there is a manual annotation layer that needs to be done. This is why we need more people to kind of annotate for us.
Got it. So we can just take one more question from audience if there are any questions. Just last question. Um, so anything you have, Vinayak, while we are waiting for the last question to come in, you have any final thoughts?
No, I think the level of detail I think was amazing to know, right? Like, for example, the action scenes, or even like, I mean, I was reading, even though we didn't talk about the romance, I mean, the evolution. I think all of it was very fascinating because I think this is what we kind of aim for in this session also, right? To get a sense of why those choices were made, how the team evolved, and I think what also current story also tells us is that how those, like, how different customers, when they onboarded, the decisions they made had an impact both on the architecture and the team. And also I think in some sense I think also the limitations of the platform itself, right? Like, for example, even if you look at the data part, right? I think Postgres is like really good at something, and then slowly, for some of the probably like the metadata stuff and fast retrieval, they are using like Redis as the cache. So to see that kind of specialization, to see that kind of evolution was, I think, very, very interesting. So I mean, we do often talk to startups, but I think especially in this episode, I think this aspect was kind of came out very strongly, that how it has evolved over a period of time. And also I think in terms of maybe like the specialization in terms of the services as well, right? How it has kind of happened, how they're kind of doing deployments as well. I think all of that is, I think, very illustrative of how a team grows, because we kind of talk about this inflection point, right? I think Karan talk about, like, I think the inflection point typically is, I think, maybe you around the 10 people mark or the 15 people mark, and then as you grow, you tend to specialize. And also, I think you need to have a more robust system in terms of deployment also, because if you don't have that, then then you face challenges in, like, the predictability, for specific customers. So I think it's great, I think. And I've known Karan for a while, and I've seen that evolution personally in him and his team, and I think also in the architecture. So I think those are the aspects, I think, in this conversation we wanted to bring out, because I think
Vinayak, I think let me just kind of interrupt you. I think you had a big role to play. I'll be very honest, like I'm not even kind of reaching out too far. You had a very, very big role to play. I think I remember that in 2020, early, just before COVID, we had gathered in Goa, right, for the boot camp for Microsoft for startups. That is where I think that was a big turning point in our life. A lot of our people, actually, we got 5 people from our team. We were only asked to get 2. All of them came, they learned so much. I think you, Ashwin, few other people who were there from your team really helped us. uh, we started thinking about scale, about how to use these kind of cloud services features, etc. And before that, we kind of only worked on monolith, and in fact service oriented architecture was also something that we started in 2020. So
yeah.
yeah, big thanks to you and the team at Microsoft for startups.
No, it's good to hear. I
Thank
think we played a small part in this, like, large story, right? I think credit goes to you. I think because different people take away different things, and happy to play that small role in this overall story. So, what do you, Vivek? If there are any questions, we can take them. I think we are over time actually. The conversation was so
Yeah.
interesting. We didn't want to kind of stop as well. So,
So as we always say, right, in Scale Up Thursday, each time there's a new startup, we see magic of tech. So it's always get interesting. Each time there's a new startup coming and sharing their story, it is getting more and more interesting. We're just going over time. Every time we have this Scale Up, just like last time it was 1 hour 10 minutes, now 1 hour 20 minutes. Now probably next one will go 1 hour 30 minutes. So that's what it is. Okay, cool. And I think we are over time. You can obviously reach out to Vinayak or to me or to Karan if you have any specific questions. And we are all happy to help here. And I would just like to thank Karan for coming here and sharing all these details. Thank you, Karan, for being on Scale Up Thursday show. And we would love to probably, I think, there should be a part 2 of this as well, because there are so many things involved in this whole discussion. Because we talked about functions, we talked about Kubernetes cluster, and probably I'm also interested in how you do DevOps, and how are those things been built, and what is your team structure there. Maybe this whole startup needs a part 2 of this. So anyways, we will think about it later. But yeah, thank you, Vinayak, for coming in and sharing the details with us. And thanks, Karan. Thank you, Rashmita, for hosting. Thank you, audience, for joining in. And we will have one more startup in coming weeks. I think on 23rd. Do join us as well. That's also an interesting startup, and we will have an amazing discussion. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you everyone, thank you for
bye
the
everyone.
opportunity. Bye,
See
thank you.
you in the next show. Bye, Karan. Bye,
Bye.
Vivek.